Hey everybody, it's Kyle. Today I want to talk about something that might upset you a little bit and frustrate you and maybe even hurt your feelings, make you mad. Because I know it did the first time I came across it. And it's this. It's that as a people, we tend to generally apply our point of view to others. And we think other people view the world the same way we do. And we think other people have the same thoughts and feelings and reactions that we do, because that's the only perspective we know is our own. And so when we see people doing something, we jump to some conclusions because we know that when we have reactions, that's how we're feeling. And let me give you an example to be more clear here. And this happened quite a few years ago. There was a time when I was easily offended by people who would stare at me and my kids whenever they did something unusual. And they did it a lot. And it wasn't unusual for me to get upset and say something to people. And I'm not real shy. And if somebody looked at me wrong, I'd say, "What are you looking at?" And I would say stuff like that. And because I felt like I was being judged. People were judging me. They don't know my situation. They don't know I have two sons that are on the spectrum. They don't know anything about me. How dare you judge me? And that's what I thought. And then one day I came across a guy, and he kind of glanced over at me, and I said, "What are you looking at?" And he said, "What does it matter with you?" And he kind of stood up to me, which is very, very rare. I'm not a small man, and so usually when I do that kind of stuff, people back down pretty quickly, but he didn't. And I said, and so we kind of started a little verbal confrontation between each other. And after a few minutes, I started to realize, because of the way he handled me, that he wasn't judging me at all. He just glanced over at me innocently. And I started to realize at that point that when other people would look at me when things were going wrong, I would assume they had the same kind of thoughts I had when I looked at other people when things were going wrong. And the thoughts that I had when I looked at other people when things were going wrong was that maybe they're not a good parent, or deep down, I guess, I was a little judgmental. And what I was doing is, like I said, I was applying my point of view to everybody else. And it turns out that the fact that I felt like other people were judging me was just a reflection of the way I saw the world and was judgmental of other people. And when I started to come to this realization, it didn't sit well with me. Because I was judgmental. And I started to realize, until I stopped being judgmental of other people, I wasn't going to be able to have people glance at me without thinking they were judging me. And, so I started testing this theory a little bit, and I came across some different people, and I would try to identify specific things about them. And I'll give you a couple of quick examples. I worked with a lady one time who was super, super paranoid. And I don't know why she was paranoid. I don't know that she wasn't doing her job or what was going on in her life. But she was really a paranoid person. She always thought people were looking over her shoulder. She was always trying to hide things. She was just really paranoid about what was going on around her. But she would always accuse other people of being paranoid. And then I met a couple of other people who had different traits about them that they would express that other people were doing. One example was a lady who, she was always talking bad about other people behind their backs. And she was constantly complaining about other employees talking about her behind her back. And I don't think she realized the reason she thought everybody talked behind her back was because she was constantly doing that, and she just assumed everybody else was the same way. And so I guess the point to this video is this: if there's something that bothers you about other people, let's say you think people talk bad about you, then are you, and this is going to be a hard question to answer because it might be painful, is there a chance that you're projecting the way you view the world and the way you do things on them? Maybe they're not talking bad about you. Maybe you just think they are because you talk bad about other people and you assume the rest of the world works the same way you do. So, does that kind of tick you off a little bit? It did me. It did me when I realized I was judgmental. I didn't like it. I fought it. I didn't think I was that way. I didn't want to be that way. But every pattern kept leading me back to the fact that I was. Now here's the good part. When you give up those traits, when you give up being judgmental, when you see kids that are acting disruptive or having troubles, and you don't look at their parents and judge them, you don't know who they are, right? Just like I used to say, they don't know who I am, they don't know my kids, they don't know what's going on in my life. When you stop doing that, when you start to tell yourself, you know what, I don't know their situation, I don't know what's going on, and you quit being so judgmental, you find that you don't feel so judged. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I would bet you that my friend who was paranoid, if she would stop being so paranoid, she would probably not think everybody else was so paranoid. And my friend who was feeling like everybody was talking behind her back, I'm just guessing, I could be wrong, but maybe she's chatting about people and she probably shouldn't be. And maybe that's why she thinks other people are talking about her. So I want to leave that with you, and if it ticks you off, maybe that's good this time. Maybe it's okay to be upset at yourself. Maybe it's okay to dig deep a little bit, get a little serious with the way you look at yourself, and check yourself on a few things. I know I've done it on a lot of things, and I'm still doing it today because I know the whole world doesn't work like I do. I realize not everybody sees the world the same way as I do. Not everybody does the same things as I do. They come from different places and have different experiences, and they create them in different ways than I am. So if you'll do that, let me just tell you this, if you'll do that, you'll really free yourself of a lot of discouragement, and you won't feel so attacked. You'll feel better about the way you treat people because you'll remove some of those, probably maybe those bad habits you have out of your life, and you can start moving forward with happiness and joy. So I want you to thrive. I want you to thrive in the chaos. Go out there and do it. Check yourself, but have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.